Triffids! Hi, this is a review of The Chrysalids by John Wyndham. Previously on Books and Quills, I reviewed The Day of the Triffids, which I really enjoyed. And because of that, I decided to tackle another of John Wyndham's books. The only thing I did before reading this book was read the first line of the summary, which says, David Storm's father doesn't approve of Angus Morton's unusually large horses, calling them blasphemies against nature. I kind of glanced over the rest of the summary, so I assumed that the horses would play a major part in all of this, and they don't, really. This book is post-apocalyptic slash dystopian, I guess. It was first published in 1955, and it's the story of David, who grows up in a village in a place called Labrador. Now I have to admit that it's been a couple of weeks since I've read this book, so I hope I remember everything correctly. The people in the book are aware of the fact that there was an old world before them, before a kind of apocalyptic event happened, and now they live in a community that kind of reminds me of early American settlers. The special thing that's going on in their world is that some people have mutations. A lot of it is basically kind of physical deformation, people with extra toes and just kind of deformed body parts. There's basically this kind of religious vibe that counts everything that deviates from the norm as a blasphemy that needs to be destroyed. The same thing happens with crops, so there's lots of cases of people just losing all of their food and their money because their crops are deformed. Now David's father is pretty strict when it comes to all of these matters, and the book starts out with David as a small boy where he has an encounter with a girl who's deformed. Later on in the book he's a bit older and we discovered that he also has a kind of deviation, even though it's not a physical one. Of course, he needs to hide it from his father and the rest of the town, and slowly he kind of starts to discover what's going on outside of the world he knows. This book definitely kind of reads as a classic, even though it goes pretty fast. Sometimes, you know, when you're reading a classic and you feel like you've been reading for hours and all you've read is 3 pages, this one kind of has the classic vibe, but it's easier to read. What I really like about the author's way of writing is that stuff is never really described in detail. He does describe the scenery in detail, but sometimes you'll suddenly be surprised because the author kind of didn't mention something that you kind of feel like you were supposed to know. It kind of keeps it interesting. For example, when I found out that David had a special deviation, I was kind of caught off guard because it wasn't slowly introduced, it was just mentioned because you kind of drop into his life at some point. Another thing that I really like about the writing is that sometimes very shocking events will happen, but they won't be described as something shocking. You read it and then you have to go back and check if that's really what happened. David was a pretty okay character, but I thought his younger sister, who also has a deviation, was way more interesting. Towards the end of the book there was a lot of action. I wasn't so much interested in that as the dynamics between the characters and kind of that struggle. For some reason, parts of this book kind of reminded me of Roswell High. For any of you who've read those, I don't want to give away any spoilers, but if you've read those books, that might give you some hints. Somewhere in the middle of reading this, I kind of stopped reading for a week or two, and I wish I hadn't done that because I think I would have enjoyed it even more if I just kept reading, so I think this is definitely one to reread, even though I did really enjoy it on the first read. I still think Dave the Triffids is my favorite, but if you like apocalyptic fiction, I can definitely recommend The Chrysalids too. In the comments you can let me know if you've read The Chrysalids and what you think about it. Also, tell me which John Wyndham book I should read next. I will talk to you guys later. Doei!